This podcast is sponsored by Big Game Wrestling Club in North Liberty. The club is led by head coach Dylan Carew and is assisted by his brother Tyler Carew. He also includes additional coaches Tyler Clark, Jesse Whitmer, and Coach Tom Lepick. The club recently opened a new facility just outside of North Liberty, the Tom Lepick Wrestling Complex. Classes are held for beginners, youth, middle school, high school. All ages can come out to Big Game Wrestling Club and train. They have a sauna, full workout facility between cardio, weight training, MMA, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. They really got it all out there at Big Game. So if you want more information, you can search Big Game Wrestling Club on Facebook or at Big Game WR on Twitter and Instagram. You can also email Coach Carew at dcarew103@yahoo.com.
Hey, is this heaven? No, it's Iowa.
From high school to international wrestling, on the mat and beyond, this is the Potentially Dangerous podcast with the guys from IAwrestle.
If you're a fighter, you like a fight. If you're an American, you like a fight. If you're an Iowa Hawkeye, you know you're going to get a fight.
Subscribe to our podcast on iTunes and all your podcast-friendly apps. And follow us on social media platforms at IAwrestle. Time to strap it up and get to the show.
All right, welcome back to Potentially Dangerous. We're doing a little bit of a special episode here. We're going to break down the Class 2A preseason rankings. These were compiled by our guru, Lars Underbakke, the man behind the Fab 50, the man behind 2A rankings. He's pretty darn good at it. I think the numbers speak for themselves. Lars, these rankings came out this week. And I feel like to just start with the obligatory note that we have to every preseason is we did not rank freshmen. So what can you tell me about the rankings overall? I mean, obviously there's no freshmen, so what can you paint me a picture of broad strokes?
Yeah, I mean, there's obviously going to be some freshmen that work their way in the rankings. There always are. We obviously just feel like we're going to make them get a little bit of a high school resume first before we pop them in there. I know it's been a debate. Really, overall, big picture to me, I think 2A is for the most part a two-team race this year. Union actually returns the most points. They have everybody back that scored points for them at state last year. But as we know, West Delaware won it last year, and we're super young. So I look for a lot of their guys to make a big jump again this year. They also have a few freshmen coming in again. West Delaware is going to be tough. I have them number 1 with 6 guys ranked. Union's number 2 with 7 guys ranked. And then it drops down a little bit. Wintersets comes in at number 3. They have 3, really highly ranked kids. 4 ranked total. And then Osage is going to be good as always. Centerville's got their 3 studs, but overall, I think West Delaware, Union are the clear 1 and 2. And I think it could be an interesting team race. I would favor West Delaware, but Union's really good.
I think one of the biggest criticism of us not ranking freshmen out of the gate, which I totally get it, but we have our own justification. But I mean the criticism we get is that's not having freshmen and then putting them in there, it could have a impact, a change on these team rankings. So I know that you're plugged in enough to know who the freshmen are and who's probably going to get a look and maybe sneak in by that second set. So I guess what I'm going to ask you here is, who are these freshmen when they do come in? Are we going to see a lot of shuffling of these top 10 teams you listed here? I mean, what impact does the not ranking freshman have and will have, I guess, going forward?
Yeah, I don't think it's going to have a ton of effect on these top 10 teams. Like I said, West Delaware's got a couple, I think it's Logan Payton and a couple of kids coming in, so they'll get a little bump. Osage has got Nicholas Fox could make his way into the rankings, which could give them a little bump. But for the most part, it's different teams. Greene County's got McKinley Robbins. Crestwood's got Chase Thomas. Crestwood's a sneaky team. They had a couple guys right outside the rankings. If they can find their way in, Chase Thomas finds his way in, they can be in that top 10 mix, but they're not right now. And then you have other schools. Assumption's going to have Derek Bass at 106 is a really tough freshman. They got another one too. Why am I blanking on his name right now? Michael Macias at 138. So Assumption's got two really, really big stud freshmen. They also have a couple transfers in from Illinois. So Assumption's a team that could make a jump up as well. But I don't think freshmen coming in is going to have a overall huge impact at the top of these team rankings.
All right. Well, I mean, you're the expert, so I'm gonna hold you to that here coming soon. But let's jump into the individual weight class rankings. My first question is do you know how to pronounce the number 1 ranked 106 pounder? Do you know how to say his name?
I've been told before, and I can't do it. I don't remember anymore. I need to get hold of my friends at Webster City again and make sure I know. But we're just gonna go by Cam.
Cam Feto.
It's like Feta Foam or something like that.
Yeah, Webster City. I don't know how to say it either, but obviously I've seen the name enough in tournaments, preseason events, postseason events to know he's pretty solid. Is there anything else at 106 that stands out? I mean, in this field, you would know better than I, obviously.
Yeah, some state qualifiers, district qualifiers, stuff like that. Cam's actually the only guy returning at this weight who's a state place winner, so he's a pretty clear number 1. Of interest is him and number 2, Cole Nelson. There's probably a pretty good chance they'll be in the same district, Webster City and Humboldt. So that would be interesting. And there are a big group of freshmen that can make their way in here. We talked about Derek Bassett Assumption, McKinley Robbins, Cale Hansen at Monticello, Earp at Red Oak, Carson Lettis at West Delaware. So, this is obviously a weight where freshmen, seem to make a big impact every year. So I do see, a decent number of these kids working their way in, and I do expect 106 to look quite a bit different by the end of the year.
All right, and then looking at 13, obviously there's the big name up top, but from Carter Fausick, Cresco, Keaton Zimet, is that how you say his name? From Central DeWitt. That's another name that stands out to me. Is this a 2-horse race, or is there anybody else in this that I'm missing?
Yeah, I think those are your top 2. There's 7 returning state place winners at this weight, so there's plenty of firepower. Carter Littlefield from Jessup placed in 1A last year. They bumped up to 2A, so I'm kind of interested to see exactly where he fits in this mix. Burnett's real tough. Lincoln Maylert from Union could have a big swing on the team race. He's capable of jumping up in that, top 2, top 3. So Maylert could make a real big splash here as well for his team. But like I say, these guys are pretty much all state qualifiers. We have 7 state place winners, so this should be a pretty fun weight. But I would say Fausick and Zimet are definitely the top 2 at this point.
All right, and then jumping up to 120, the big name, the 3-time state champ Matthew Lewis out of Centerville, 2-time state champ, because he's a junior. Because he's a junior. Yep, you're correct. Yep, see, that's why you know more, man. Is this his way to run here?
You sure think so. He's been pretty dominant throughout his high school career. I think he's only got 3 losses total. Like last year, he lost once out of Iowa. Got a bunch of big wins. So, you got to favor him. But there are, 4 other state place winners. Colton Crawford from Union again, another guy that could jump up for Union. A couple times state place winner. Lilligard's been really good for Bondurant. That was another team. Don't sleep on Ben Schmitz from Carroll Kemper. He was a high state place winner 2 years ago. Last year, went 43-3, was ranked high at the end of the year. I think I had him at number 4 heading into sectionals, and he got upset and stayed home. But Ben Schmitz is in here at 5, and he's more than capable of making a run at this weight as well.
All right, then 126. I see some more names that are standing out to me, but I'll let you go ahead and preview that weight.
Yeah, 2 returning state runner-ups. Isaiah Weber of Independence. As a freshman last year, he got second at 113. Gino Bana is a junior. He's gotten second as a freshman and a sophomore. And he got pretty big over the summer. So I'm interested to see if Gino Bana makes it to 26 right out the gate. He wrestled at West Gym against Gabe Lewis, who I think is at 38. So definitely some size disparity there. Weber's coming up, so it'll be interesting to see how they stack up. Sam Nelson got fourth last year. Sullivan's a kid, I think, who's, he won 50 matches last year. He's capable of making a real deep run. And the same thing, Landon Fenton is actually probably better than his fifth place. Really, really tough kid. He was having a good year last year, actually beat Weber, and then broke his collarbone at the state tournament. So, he's a state qualifier, didn't place. That was kind of a weird one to rank, but I think Fenton's a kid who could really make some waves here as well.
And then looking at 132, I see a lot of names that are standing out to me. That these are guys that I know, so I feel like these are guys that are pretty accomplished. I can't say Caden Kolarzic from Centerville. Actually, I think did he just commit too?
Kozlerich, I believe, and he committed to Northern Illinois.
Northern Illinois, yeah. Okay. Beck, Curry from Sergeant Bluff, Luton. But the real kicker here is you got Kane Loonsman from Monticello, ranked number 2. What's going on there?
Yeah, so he's another one. He went 40-2 last year. Got injured during the state tournament. He was in a tight match, controversial call at the end, gets hurt right at the very end, and has to default out. So he did not end up placing. I do have him ahead of, I think, 4 different place winners here. He did place 2 years ago. Again, had a great year, and he has 2 head-to-head wins pretty convincingly over number 3 Kincaid out of Comanche. So I really struggled with where to place Loonsman. Hatton made the finals last year. He was on the same side as Loonsman. Loonsman gets hurt. So I would have really loved to have seen that match at the state tournament last year, but I gave Hatton the benefit of the doubt for being a state finalist, even on the same side. But to me, Loonsman having those head-to-head wins over Kincaid, he's got some other great wins. Like I say, he was a place winner 2 years ago, high place winner. So I slotted Loonsman in at 2 ahead of Kincaid. Beck got 4th last year at 20. We talked about Kozlerich going to Northern Illinois, D1 kid, ranked 5th. So just a deep weight. Avery Abbin has been dynamite, forever. This guy, I think, was a state runner-up to Ratchie when they were 8th graders and stuff. So he's a real talented kid. Keegan Sheeler took a tough loss in the postseason last year, but he's a capable kid. And there's some other ones. We already talked about Chase Thomas, the freshman. I expect to make his way into these rankings here pretty fast once the season starts as well. So they're really good weight. I think 32 is super deep.
Yeah, it looks like it for sure. Let me flip back here out of my notes. And moving up to 38, I see 2 names at the top that I think are going to be a good battle there. Hayden Taylor, Solon, Jalen Schropp, Williamsburg. 2 names that got a lot of name value national wise. But what else is shaking at 138?
I think he's the favorite at about any goes in 2A. But Jalen Schropp's tough. We've seen a lot of him. Again, another guy, he played football. He wrestled up pretty high at Night of Conflict and looked great. Cruz Kibbers, another guy, came on hard last year, had almost 50 wins, placed 5th. Peyton Drake and Isaac Bryan, Gage Long are all state place winners as well. So we have 6 more state place winners here. Neiman's a guy who's been on this list for years, kind of waiting for him to make that jump. Adam Hansen had some good wins last year. So, again, this all the way down to 10, I look at this as another pretty deep weight. And there's actually another state qualifier from Emmitsburg, who's a 1A state qualifier last year. Sean Brennan, who's not even in that top 10. So definitely some depth here as well, but hard to imagine anybody knocking off Hayden Taylor at this point.
Yeah, I 100% obviously with his resume. 145 looks pretty fun too. A couple of big names up top: Jack Thompson, South Dakota State commit; Jack Galkel, he's been performing at the state tournament since his freshman year. Obviously, Colby Toole is another guy that I know of, but Jaden Payton, West Delaware. West Delaware's full of good guys, so 145 looks like a really good weight too.
Yeah, I think this is a fun one. We know Jack Thompson won state last year. Like I say, he's ready to go D1. He's a big time recruit. I really like Jack Galkel a lot too. He's already a 2-time state runner-up heading into his junior year. I think that's, to me, one of the better conversations is for 1-2. I think this is could be one of the better state finals if those guys meet. But, man, Colby Toole, you already mentioned, he is injured. So he got injured in football. He's going to miss a little bit of time here at the beginning of the year. But if he can get back, get healthy, get up to full strength by state, he's going to make a run. And Jaden Payton, had a great freshman year, finished 4th as a freshman. Put on a little muscle in the offseason. He's going to be a tough one to contend with, too. So those 4 are all right in that mix. But I think Thompson, Galkel could be a blast. I hope we get to see it this year. Same thing, Tristan Sales from Eddyville put on a bunch of weight. He wrestled 26 last year. We saw him up at the tournament before Night of Conflict, and I was like, holy cow, what did this guy do? He grew, I think, 6 inches and got big. So I'm interested to see how Sales does, Jackson Rolfs. So there's some questions here, on those lower guys, but man, those top 4, top 6 are really solid.
Yeah, and I'm sensing a theme here because I just scrolled down to the next weight, and 152 is another weight where I see a lot of guys that I feel like are going to be title threats. You got Will Esmoil, he was close last year. You got Jack West from Winterset, who's I know is really tough, and Zeb Ginda from Solon's tough. Those 3 guys right away stand out. So 152 looks, I'm not seeing a clear-cut leader, or am I wrong?
Yeah, I think I would favor Esmoil at this point. I think at this point he's a clear number 1. He beat West at state last year head-to-head. He's placed top 3 a couple times, 2nd last year. So I think he's a pretty clear favorite. But Ganida is one that's really interesting. Again, place winner at 32 last year. He's all the way up here at 52 now. So I'm interested to see how he fares with these big guys. I know he put on some really good muscle as well. Jack West has been a guy that everybody's known about since he was a kid. So he's going to be right in that mix. And then Riley Burke was a place winner last year for Iowa Falls as well. So some good competition there. I think Stone Schmitz is an interesting one for Union. State qualifier last year as a freshman. Did take a decent number of losses, but had some really good wins as well. So he's a guy I look to make big jumps as well, which could affect the team race. So keep an eye on Stone Schmitz.
160. There's a couple guys that are, pretty high on the Fab 50 at this weight. And then there's a couple, guys that are, just coming into their second half of their high school career that are probably looking forward to taking that next step. So what can you tell us about 160?
Yeah, I think this is a fun weight as well. Adam Aronson, everybody's pretty well aware of him at this point. He was a state runner-up last year. Goes out, has an incredible Fargo. So he really put his name on the national map, not just Iowa. But Justin McCunn, I know we've gotten more familiar with him as well. He was a state runner-up himself last season at 160. He's back. He came and wrestled Night of Conflict. We go back to that one, beat Ashton Barker in a great match. McCunn's a tough kid. I know he's got some good offers going as well. He had a great year last year, almost 50 wins. So, that could be an interesting one. But Zach Williams from Osage is really tough too. I think he's capable of going with these guys. Cale Meyer had kind of a weird year last year. I know he's been wrestling maybe up a little bit in weight. But this year he seems to have grown. He made a jump from 45 to 60. He's got some really good wins. He's taken some weird losses, though. So if Cale Meyer can figure out his consistency, he placed 8th last year. He could definitely jump up. And then Wyatt Appleseth. For people that don't follow 1A as much. He was a state placer 2 years ago in 1A. Last year, he took 2 really tough losses at state to some really good high place winners. But Appleseth is the real deal. He'll be competing with these guys as well. And then Cade Everson was another one of those guys. Had some really good wins last year. So he's capable of hanging in here too. So I think it's interesting. McCunn and Aronson are definitely the favorites, but I think those next 3-4 guys can compete with them on any given day.
And then looking ahead to 170, I see some interesting rankings here on how the guys are ordered. So I'll let you just take it from there.
Yeah. So anybody who's following might question Spencer Newberry at 2. He placed 6th last year at 170. Jax Flynn placed 7th. But they actually didn't meet each other at state. But earlier, Flynn had beat Newberry head-to-head. So that's where that one came about. I kind of went back and forth. Obviously, placing higher is worth something, but that week at state duels, Flynn beat him 5-0 head-to-head. Oh, so for me, they didn't wrestle head-to-head. They lost to the same guy. Get 6th, 7th is pretty even. So that head-to-head matchup for Flynn pushed him over the top to number 1 over Newberry. But obviously they're real close to each other. Caleb Swala placed 7th as well at 160 last year. Dynamite on top. Had some really big wins. Beat state champ Skylar Nofsker at sectionals last year. So he's more than capable. Again, another 1A kid from last year, Mason Griffin from Emmitsburg. He placed 6th in 1A last year. So he's up there. And then some just familiar names. Maybe didn't have the tournaments they won at the end, but everybody knows Matthew Doyle from Independence will be in that mix. Jared Voss from West Delaware has always been in that mix. Connor Den from Dubuque Wahlert. So those are some interesting names that, they weren't place winners last year, but Doyle was a place winner 2 years ago. And these guys are really tough as well. So they're gonna stick their noses in here. There's no real high returning place winners. Like I said, 6th, 7th, 6th. So Doyle, Voss, don't count those guys out of a chance to wrestle Saturday night either.
Yeah, so it's like Flynn, Newberry, Swala, Doyle, Voss. I'm like, man, this weight looks like it's going to be pandemonium.
Yeah, there's no real huge standout, but there's just a lot of good quality depth.
But I suppose, once we get a couple weeks into the season, we'll see somebody probably emerge where we know we'll have a clearer picture, I'm guessing.
Yeah, and we'll see a few of these kids at Independence Invite right out of the gate. So we should even get some head-to-heads right away and kind of start sorting this weight out a little bit, hopefully.
Well, kaboom. 182, what can you tell us there about, what's going on there? There's a couple names, but I mean, I'm a little bit lost on this one. So I'll let you take this one.
I think Sage Walker is fairly well known at this point. He was a Fargo All-American, not this past summer, but the summer before. Got 2nd in state last year, lost a tough one. Got injured there, so he wasn't able to wrestle this summer. But Sage Walker is real, real tough. He's a pretty clear-cut favorite to me. Cole Davis is an interesting one. Was ranked all year at 170 last year, dropped down to 160 at the end, placed 4th. So Davis is real capable. Again, he's a hammer on top, really good kid. He jumps back up to 182 this year. So Davis, number 2, Jeffers from Keokuk, Newhouse from West Delaware, and Kinsella from Creston are all returning place winners as well. So you got 5 place winners there. Abe Michael from Makokata, very good. He beat Ashton Barker, who we already talked about, who got 3rd in 3A last year. So Michael has a win over him and some other good wins. So he's in that mix. And then Carter Maines is another interesting one. Again, was ranked, real good kid, got in some trouble at the end of the year, actually didn't get to compete at districts, so wasn't able to move on, but another kid who's right in that mix as well. So I think, Sage Walker is clear-cut favorite, but I think there's a real nice run of kids behind him to try to make that run to get a shot at him maybe.
Yeah, shout out to Red Oak, man. They got tough kids.
That's right.
Look,
you can see me in my Red Oak shirt right now.
That's right. Yeah, I forgot about that. No, so looking up at 195, we see the Beast, Wyatt Volker, just sitting at the top. Is he gonna make lunch meat of this field, or what do we got going on?
Yeah, I think so.
He's a
He's
tough dude.
actually, what's that?
I said he's a tough dude.
He's a tough dude. He's, we've went on and on about Wyatt Volker, only a sophomore, but we think awfully highly of him. I think he's a pretty clear-cut favorite as well. But there's two really tough kids behind him, Isaac Butcher and Evan Rozonki from New Hampton. So those guys both placed last year. Isaac started the year actually at 220 last year before coming down. Rozonki's had some good competition. He placed at 182 last year. Now he's coming up. So it'll be interesting to see how those guys fare in there. After that, it gets a little dicey. I think, we really only had like 2 other state qualifiers here, some district qualifiers with, good wins. A lot of these guys kind of beat up on each other. Lewis and Zindlinger and Kramer, Wyatt Scheidel from Cresco's right on the outside. All these guys kind of beat up on each other. So it'll be interesting to see how it all shakes out. But, I think those top 3 kind of separate. Volker's obviously the favorite. Probably not quite as deep of a weight for me.
And then looking at 220 pounds, it seems like it was just yesterday that one Cody Fisher of Woodwood Granger came from unranked in Lars rankings to make the state finals and has now wrestled in 3 state finals. and is looking to go out a 4-time state finalist, 2-time state champ. But what can you tell us about 220? I just wanted to give you a little bit of a hard time.
yeah, too. The interesting thing is, he wrestled the first 2 state finals against Esmoil from West Liberty, and now the guy ranked number 2 at him is also from West Liberty, Kobe Simon, only a junior, placed 4th last year as a sophomore, big tough kid. So it'll be interesting. He swapped some matches last year, had some good battles with Seth Adrian from Assumption, who also placed. So those 2 are gonna battle it out over here in Eastern Iowa all year. Looking for that 2nd, 3rd spot. Jarrett Meyer from Central Lyon was a place winner last year as well. And then a whole bunch of qualifiers: Grout, Stevenson, Bernicle. These guys are all qualifiers. Bernicle got real big. He's a big-time football player. So there's question whether he'd go 220 heavyweight. I'm told he's going 220. And then same thing, Eisentrager from Iowa Falls wrestled quite a bit of heavyweight last year, had some good wins, and he's coming down to 220 as well. So should be some pretty good depth, but Cody Fisher is a pretty clear-cut favorite. And in my eyes, Simon and Adrian will be battling. We'll see when district assignments come out, but those 2 will be battling a few times over here, looking to jockey for that number 2 spot.
Gotcha. And then we'll wrap things up for individual rankings at 285 pounds. What do you got?
Yeah, again, 4 state place winners, Petlon, Kremens, both state place winners, but the top 2, this was kind of an interesting one. I went back and forth of who's number 1, who's number 2. Caden Sutton was a runner-up last year at 220, so he's coming up quite a bit. Taven Rich is a big guy. He's a really good-sized heavyweight, so that would be an interesting matchup to me. I'm told Sutton's gotten pretty large himself, so I'd be interested on that one. I just felt like, Rich got 3rd at heavyweight last year. I felt like he just made huge strides, had some really big wins. So I ended up putting him number 1 over Sutton. Probably could have went either way. And then just some good depth, Sesker, Lawrenson, even like Anderson, Vanderbrink. These guys are all really tough. Had a lot of really quality wins last year. And then another name just on the outside who was ranked high all year last year was Thomas Wilson from Southwest Iowa. I debated whether to put him in or not. I'm told he's out with injury for a while. Sounds like hopefully he'll be back. They're not sure whether he'll be back or not, but if Thomas Wilson makes it back, he's a name that definitely would have been in these rankings. So I didn't forget about him for anybody down there in Southwest Iowa, but I'm just told he's going to miss quite a bit of time, so he was left out of this first set.
Gotcha. Well, that's all 14 weight classes and the top 10 teams. Looking forward, we got the season practice just started. We're gonna have some events coming up. So when's the next set of rankings get released? I mean, when are we gonna see some shakeups and maybe a second set to the freshmen come in and we get a clearer picture? Do you know? Do you have any idea of the schedule?
Yeah, I mean, really, it's the 1st of December basically is when we get rolling. So I think it's December 2nd or is the Monday. So that week we'll really start seeing some competition, but that weekend is when we'll shake out more. So that first weekend there out of the gate, we'll have Independence. We'll have Keith Young's, a few other tournaments that'll make some big waves in our rankings. But, that's already getting into like December 9th. So I would assume we'll just put out probably one more set of rankings before Christmas, get a couple out after Christmas. But yeah, obviously that second set is probably our biggest shakeup of the year. Freshmen coming in, some guys are still adjusting weights, different things like that. So it'll be interesting. There's some good, like I say, good competition right out the gate. And I'll be in Independence as always, and we'll see how it all shakes out.
Perfect. Well, I think, this is a fantastic first set of 2A rankings. I think you're the best in the biz, no doubt. And I don't just say that as a homer. I love your work, Lars. I'm really looking forward to the season. 2A looks like a great race, even though they would probably lose to my Class 1A in a duel, state champs.
Homer.
1A love. So it looks great. Looking forward to catching up with you more on the rankings throughout the season. If you guys want to, catch Lars' work, he's at Lars IAwrestle. Like he said, he's going to be at the Independence. He's at all the tournaments, and he's tweeting all the time. So you definitely want to follow him. I know you got something else to add here.
I was just going to say, I think we got maybe a little bit of a ranking surprise next week as well. Not one of these sets, but we got a little trick up our sleeve that me and the other rankers are working on right now. So make sure you pay attention to IAwrestle next week for another fun set of rankings. And then sometime throughout the season, I'll be working on the girls' high school rankings as well.
And that's why I said you got to follow at Lars IAwrestle, and that's why I call him the guru, because he doesn't just do 2A, he does Fab 50, girls, and a little bit more. So I know you get a lot of bit of help from the team, but I know you do a lot of shoulder carrying here. So we're looking forward to the content you got coming out. Thanks everybody for tuning into our 2A show. Well, hopefully you hear the 1A and 3A.